Hey guys, welcome back. Eric Smith here, contributor on the Five Reasons Sports Network, also co-host of the Scouting Combine with Hassan Patel. And on this week's video, we're going to take a quick look at my grades for the offensive line this week, and then we're going to change gears a little bit, and we're going to talk about some of the issues in the run game as a whole. We're a few days removed from that Thanksgiving night disaster this week. Here's the grades. They are what they are. And if you're a returning viewer, you get the idea of what I normally share here. And if you're a new viewer, then feel free to check out my previous videos to see more of what goes into these individual grades. I really thought that I was going to go into this video and detail how Mike McDaniel went away from the outside zone, despite saying that outside zone is the starting point of this offense. I even had a video queued up from a while back where he says that himself.
By and large, so the outside zone is the starting point for our technique and fundamentals, and the basically every play in the plan has a accompanied tool if there's an overplay to that play.
But the reality is that when I finish my grading that includes some basic charting of the play concepts, the Dolphins actually ran their highest percentage of outside zone runs the entire season in their game against Green Bay. So what is the issue with the run game? That's what we're going to take a look at today as we go through all 15 run plays from Thursday night. The box score shows 14, but two of those were negated by penalty, and one was a scramble that I don't count as a run play for the purposes of this video. All right, so obviously we talk about the game flow. This game went off the rails from the first few minutes when the defense forced a 3-and-out. Malik Washington then muffed the punt. Green Bay recovers, and they score. That's about as bad of a start to the game as you could draw up, but it is what it is. We're down 7-0. There's zero reason to stray from a neutral game script. Then we get the ball. Our first series starts out with a false start from Janu, then two completions to Achane, and that gets the offense back on track. We get a couple more penalties, and we're back to 1st and 10. But if you include all the penalties, we're 6 plays into the game before the first run play is called. And I don't like that. Talking about that first run play, when I did my initial all-22 review, I couldn't even make sense of what the Dolphins were trying to run. Then this morning, my co-host, Hassan Patel, sent me this tweet, and the light bulb went off that it's exactly what Miami was trying to do. The keys here are that it's a zone look with split flow action, and the tight end is trapping. So we're going to have this tight end or H coming in motion, giving you that split flow look. And then you're going to have the tight end on this side coming through and trapping that defensive tackle. So this is essentially a inside zone to the right, but rather than comboing through this nose tackle, they're going to let him go and trap him or wham him with the tight end out here. All right, let's take a look at Miami doing this. So instead of getting the split flow action, you're going to get Julian Hill is going to loop inside to try to seal this defensive end out. You're going to have Durham Smythe as your trap or wham tight end trying to kick out this defensive tackle. Should have Brewer going to this linebacker and Eichenberg climbing here. And as you can see, when we run this play, nothing seems to go right. So again, Eichenberg, is trying to get just a piece of that guy before climbing to this linebacker. Brewer, you can see his eyes are over there. I think because the linebacker was all the way over there, he just continued to climb there. But Eichenberg loses his balance completely, right? And then you've got Smythe who gets no movement at all, gets pushed back into where the hole should have been, right? This is a lane that should be developing right through there. And As you can see, this is just ugly. It's not that I don't like the play, it's that I don't like running this play as the first play of the game. I prefer the keep it simple, stupid, the kiss approach to start the game until you know what the defense is doing and how they're going to react. But it is what it is. Results in a 1 yard loss, sets up 2nd and 11. All right, so now we get a awkwardly timed draw play here. And maybe you could say that Brewer's block wasn't great, but I'd lean towards thinking that this is the type of play that, or the type of lane that Achan could get through. But Achan and Tua can't even get a clean handoff, and the result here is a -3 yard run. And then to compound it, Janu Smith gets called for a personal foul for smacking a defender in the face. And I get defending your quarterback, but both players were mushing each other's face mask, and I think the refs would have let that go. But when Janu takes it a step further, that's a flag every time. It was going to be 3rd and 14 anyway, so I'm not that mad about it, but it's relevant for the next play also. All right, so now we're at 3rd and 29. We hand it off to Mostert. Assign the blame where you want. It's 3rd and 29. We're deep in our own territory. No matter the level of execution, this play was a throwaway play almost 100% of the time. Obviously, they punt after this play, but the relevance to this video is that we're at one drive, and this is 20% of the run plays of the entire game. And I think I've made a decent case that so far it's less about the offensive line performance and more about the play calling and the game flow in terms of the lack of run game production early in this game. All right, so Green Bay scores again to make it 14-0, and they've eaten up most of the first quarter. Ideal? No. But the game's still very young, and the Dolphins are getting the ball at half. We start this drive with 3 more passes, 1 to Janu and 2 to Ingold, and finally Miami gets to their first outside zone play that goes for 13 yards off the left side. And then the very next play, we flip it, and while the blocking is not great, this is a missed read by Achan, where he's not willing to get downhill, and he's late to that bang read and loses a yard. So as we're looking here, Achan is going to be reading this defender and how this combination block is working, right? You can see that right off the bat, the leverage is to the outside there. So right away, he's trying to get a little wider, reading the next guy, right? And he does well there. But right here is where that lane is developing, and he needs to stay downhill and just get what he can. And as you can see, he starts to bounce. He realizes he's wrong, tries to cut back late there. So, this wasn't a stellar job by the offensive line, but there's a lane here that Achan can hit, and we should be getting a good gain out of this. But because of the missed or late read by Achan, we're not getting the yards out of this play that we should. All right, so Miami recovers from that. We get 2 passes, 2 penalties, another pass, and that puts Miami 1st and goal from the 9. We get reverse off of the outside zone to the left action, and this is just, kind of too easy to read for the defensive end. We haven't shown anything that would make him think that he has to squeeze this for a cutback. So as soon as that motion comes, he's getting upfield, right? A little peek out there at Smythe, and then looking back inside, he sees this the whole way and makes the play. So felt that this was a poorly timed play call. I felt that it was a very good defensive play, but also a play where, we can't put any blame on the offensive line for this. There is nothing they could have done better that was going to change the outcome of this play, because a defender that is designed to be unblocked and you're anticipating him reacting a different way doesn't react that way and ends up blowing up this play. So that results in a field goal 3 plays later. And on this drive, we have 1 really good run, 1 missed read by the running back, and 1 poor play call. And now we've seen 40% of the run plays in this game. And if you really want to add insult to injury, Green Bay runs this exact play on the first play of the next possession where Ogba gets caught peeking inside and Reed runs for 23 yards. All right, then Green Bay pins Miami deep in their own territory in the next possession, and Miami opens up with an outside zone. And this is another missed read by Achan. You can see that off the snap here, Ingold and Achan are both reading the blocks. And you can see Ingold reading Armstead's outside leverage, and he's getting outside. Achan, for some reason, chooses to cut this back inside where Armstead defender already has that leverage. I had people telling me that this was to avoid a safety, but the ball was snapped from the 5-yard line. There's no way that this decision was made by Achan to avoid a safety. If Achan stays outside on this play, you can see that we actually have good seals from Smythe and also from Waddle, and you've got Ingold leaning outside on what could have been a really nice play. There ends up being a penalty on this one, so we still get to 1st and 5, where another pass play converts for the next first down. All right, so this is going to be the first one that I really put on the offensive line. It's an outside zone to the right, and it's going to cut back. But first, let's look at the blocking assignments based on the initial defensive alignment. So Lamb is covered, Eichenberg is uncovered, Brewer is covered, Jones uncovered, Armstead covered. So you're going to see what you should get is a combination block there up to this linebacker and a combination block here up to that linebacker. But you're going to see that a late shift by the defense changes that. So now, if they had the time to redo their calls, right, still covered, he's trying to kick him out, covered, he is uncovered, covered, uncovered, and covered. So we should have Brewer helping one of these guys and working up to 58. And Armstead, with the ball going to the right, should really, be checking to make sure that there's no slant inside there before getting up to the next level here. But what you're going to see happen is that we don't get the help blocks the way that we should. And you can see, right, these two are solo blocks, not a whole lot to see on those ones. But Brewer doesn't help at all here. And I think that Jones was expecting that because if you look at the leverage that Jones has on this block, his head is to the inside. I think he was expecting Brewer to fit up in there and to help double through that to get to this linebacker. And I don't know that Julian Hill was expecting the help there, but I don't think that Teron going back was necessary. And you can see that his linebacker has gotten too much leverage for Tron to even have a chance at him. And the result of the play is that the defender that Jones seemed to think he was getting help with affects the play, and then the one that Armstead should have been trying to get to is the one making the play. And this ends up being a holding penalty on Jones, but like I said, I think it was because there was a miscommunication in terms of, where the combination blocks were happening. All right, so now we get the ball back down 21-3 with 1:32 left in the half. I'm not really going to criticize any play calling in that type of situation when it comes to use or non-use of the run game. Miami turns it over to Downs, and Green Bay is able to use 22 seconds to tack on another field goal and make it 24-3 heading into the half. The game obviously sucks at this point as a fan, but as coaches and players, you have to put that behind you and understand the game could still be within reach if you get your head out of your ass and score on the opening possession of the second half. Instead, Miami throws 3 passes, has a delayed game, and they punt the football back to Green Bay. Green Bay kicks yet another field goal, and they extend the lead to 27-3. On the next possession, Miami gets a 26-yard gain from Raheem Mostert here. And you can see they've got great blocking across the board. And if it was, just that run alone is part of the box score, the narrative is probably a little different for the offensive line. But it wasn't, because this play gets called back for a hold by Tyreek out here on the edge. And I'm not a, you know, not a referee cost us the game type of guy. And obviously at 27-3, that's certainly not the case. But when you've got an official, this one up here, who is in great position to make that call, but then the guy over here is the one who launches his flag, that's not a great look in my opinion. But again, it is what it is. Doesn't change the narratives of the team as a whole, but I do think it's valuable to include when talking about the run game as a whole, when you're talking about how it did, and particularly how the offensive line did, because this is another play that was a very good gain that was taken off the board at no fault of the offensive line. All right, so even with that hold, Tua converts to Janu on the next play for a first down, and McDaniel calls a counter reverse to Mostert on 1st and 10. And I straddle the fence here because Green Bay was way ahead of McDaniel on this play. The late shift by the defensive line again messed up the assignments. Most notably is going to be Kendall Lamb, who is trying to block down this defensive tackle, but he runs into Brewer as he's trying to get out. The defense doesn't respect the fake to Tyreek Hill, and that's something that I've brought up before. I don't know why defenses fall for it, but they do. The toss from Tua to Mostert is off time. Usually when this happens, the runner is back here receiving that pitch. But on this play, you can see that Tua's got to toss it further back here, right? Mostert's reaching out for that. The timing is just off. And even with all of that, the play is damn near a big gain. But Brewer loses his footing out here, right? You got Brewer right here losing his footing, and that slows Mostert down and limits it to a 1-yard gain. So am I thrilled with the play call? Not really, but it's worked in the past, and despite all of my gripes, it was a footing issue from an offensive lineman away from being a potential big play. All right, so then we get a pass to Malik Washington to get to 3rd and 1, and then we get duo where I assign 50-50 blame to Eichenberg and Ingold. So as you can see here, right, this is going to go to the left side, and starting with Ingold, as he comes across, he is going to miss his block here on 55 that allows the tackle to come through. With this duo action, we should be getting a double team between Jones and Armstead up to number 7, and then we should be getting Eichenberg and Brewer doubling up to 58. And you can see that I don't know what Eichenberg is doing, because he ends up going completely to the outside there to this defensive back that looks like Janu's trying to get to. But this really should have been a double team, and same idea as the Jones block from earlier. Based on the leverage that Brewer has here, I think that he was expecting to get help from Liam getting vertical push on this duo play up to number 58. So, those end up being the guys that are the primary issues on this play, right? It's Ingold's guy who he wasn't able to block. It is the guy that Brewer was struggling to block by himself, and the linebacker that, in my opinion, is where Eichenberg should have been going. So, again, 50-50 on Ingold and Eichenberg here, but, the type of communication issues that are preventing us from, converting third and short situations. All right, so here the defense gets a stop, and we get what is probably the best drive of the night, starting with a play action pass to Tyreek. Now the defense seems to be starting to acknowledge the run game, and then we get another nice looking outside zone play to the left. It could have really gone for nice yardage, but Durham Smythe trips over Julian Hill and can't stay on his feet. So this is a play that is limited to 3 yards, right? There's Smythe falling, and his defender is the one that gets Mostert to bounce it. Hill is saying, I'm not holding, you know, don't throw the flag. But again, the biggest issue here was Smythe falling to the ground and Mostert not being able to get downhill with this run. So potential for a good run here didn't work out that way. Not the fault of the offensive line. All right, we get 2 first downs converted to the passing game, and then we get to Achane with a run on 1st and 10 here. And this is going to be a play that looks very similar to that first play that we watched in this video with a zone run look with a trap block from the fullback. And if you want to throw Liam under the bus, this is the one. He completely loses his balance, allowing his linebacker to make the play, and also not a great block by Brewer. It's a 1 yard gain, and this is one that I will definitely concede was because of the offensive line. All right, then 3 more passes gets Miami into 1st and goal from the 9. This is a inside zone to the left where Achane hits the cutback. Nothing wrong with the blocking on this play. The cutback option is part of the play design. So I thought this was a solid job of blocking by the offensive line and also a good read by Achane to hit the cutback here. All right, next play, we're going to have 2nd and goal from the 1. And originally I was pretty harsh on Kendall Lamb on this play, saying that, if he had maintained that outside leverage, this is a walk-in touchdown. And that is still a true statement that if Lamb was a dog in the run game, that, would have been a walk-in touchdown. But he's not. But even with what he did do on the play, if Aaron Brewer had stayed on his feet here and gotten a piece of number 7, then the option to bang it inside of Kendall Lamb here could have still been an option. My biggest gripe on this play is that it's Devon Achane. I like Achane. I really do. But from the 1 yard line, we've got Raheem Mostert, Jalen Wright, and Jeff Wilson all healthy and active on this roster that could have potentially run through this contact and ended in the end zone. And we all know that Miami throws the ball the next 2 plays before turning it over on downs. And I don't even hate the pass on 2nd down. I disagree with the play action it was tied to, but one of those 2 plays really needed to be a run again. At this point in the game's essentially over. I don't care if they didn't run the ball again. Green Bay gets another field goal to extend it to a 3-score game again at 30-11. Miami scores a touchdown on the deflection caught by Tyreek and the failed 2-point conversion to make it 30-17. All right, so if you're still watching, I appreciate it. Hopefully what I've said throughout this video makes sense to you, and hopefully it helps to show some of the issues in the run game and broaden your horizon to see that it's not just the offensive line that's the issue with the run game. And in fact, I feel like the offensive line did a decent job. You're obviously going to have some plays like the duo play and the that second tight end trap for Eichenberg. You're going to have plays where the line is not good enough, and that's going to happen no matter what. But you also had Smythe tripping. You had a Tyreek hold. You had Achan and Tua not able to get a handoff. You had a unblocked defender making a stop. Those are all things that are not impacted by the offensive line. So while you can improve the offensive line, if you don't fix the other things that go along with it, it's not going to matter, and the run game is still going to struggle. So that was kind of my point of this video is that, I'm not trying to have an agenda here telling you that this offensive line is great, but I'm trying to explain that the offensive line is not even the biggest issue in the run game. So feel free to comment below. Tell me if you agree, disagree. Tell me if you think that I'm seeing a play here wrong. As always, feel free to come over and find me on X under at OL Coach Smith 63. Love to have conversations over there. And other than that, we'll talk again next week.